So guys, why was MARIBE set free? MARIBE testified that she was dropped to work by Joey on that day. Then after alimaliza kazi, proceed to an interview that Mike Sonko was doing. And then at around 10, they proceeded to Q Lounge. And then later around to 4040, where Joe now joined them at around midnight. And they had their sherehe and left at around 4. The next day, the same thing. Joey dropped her at work. Jioni ikafika. MARIBE came back home. Ali claimed she did not help Joey in burning any of the clothes. She was not aware. She stated that. And that was basically a story that she did not know Monica. She had no reason to kill Monica. At the same time, she could not control how Joey decided to use her car. So whether Joey intended to use her car in the crime, she was not aware. And that was basically her story. And the prosecution was saying that MARIBE aided in committing the crime because he gave Joey her car. Number 2, she did not deny the fact that she was present when Joey was burning up the clothes. That is what she said. The prosecution is saying that she allowed Joey to use her vehicle, that she was within the vicinity of the crime, that she alleged that during that night, she went to 4040 in Westland, but she had no alibi who could actually back up her story that she was at 4040. By the way, Joy and MARIBE did not have any witnesses on their side except themselves. Nobody testified, defend witnesses, none of that. She never denied being in the house that night when Joy called Brian for paraffin, and later when he burnt the clothes. She gave false testimony in relation to the gun shooting to conceal suspicion towards the offense of murder. That is what the prosecution is trying to say. And that she concealed the hole in the bedroom where the firearm damaged. But from the evidence that was adduced by the prosecution, CCTV footage showed that she was nowhere around. Witness who testified said that they never saw any female. So she was never there. She never even visited the deceased place. Telephone data showed that she had never been in any communication with the deceased. MARIBE then stated that the evidence that was submitted did not show that she was involved in any way with the murder. There were no eyewitnesses. There was no forensic evidence connecting her to the murder, as opposed to Joe, who had a shot that had blood stains. And when those blood stains were matched with the deceased, it was marked that blood belonged to the deceased. The forensic evidence. But that was not the case for MARIBE. There was no evidence to suggest that he was in Lamuria Gardens where the deceased lived. Basically, the judge acquitted MARIBE because the offense of murder was not proved against her, which is actually true. There is nothing that is connecting MARIBE to murder. But now my question is, where was the DPP when they were filing these charges? Because I feel like when they were doing their investigations, when they were preparing up the case, they ought to have known that the offense of murder would not stand against MARIBE because the evidence for MARIBE was not airtight in relation to murder. So now in their submissions, the DPP was now trying to sneak in other charges. They wanted MARIBE to be charged on accessory after the fact. The fact that they were trying to say that MARIBE burnt the clothing and all that. They also wanted MARIBE to be charged with aiding, with abatement and concealment. These are charges that MARIBE did not plead to in the first place, and the prosecution had not included them in the charge sheet. The judge, by the way, did not comment on these charges. The judge just stated things, but she didn't actually make a conclusion on this. She only made a conclusion on the issue of Joey, and at the end of it all, she stated that the prosecution has the power to, there's no limitation of time for them to prefer a charge against an accused person when it comes to criminal law. So that is a power within them, and they can do, if they want to bring charges against MARIBE over this, they can do that. But the issue of them going to appeal this case, I don't know what they're trying to appeal, because if they're trying to appeal against the charges of murder, the charges of murder against MARIBE cannot stand. There was not enough evidence to place MARIBE at that crime. It is indeed true MARIBE maybe could have done something out of panic and all that, but there's no evidence to show that she actually committed the murder. So the offense of murder could not stand. So the prosecution right now going to appeal is just wasting our time, because what are they going to appeal? If it's for the crime of murder, it's not going to work. They should have charged MARIBE with other offenses when they were preparing those pleadings. Before moving to trial, they should have even sought leave to amend the charge sheet and introduce other offenses. You know, giving false information to a public servant, the police, something of the sort, accessory after the fact, abatement and concealment. Crimes like that, they ought to have done that. And you know, them now going to appeal. I don't know exactly what they want to try and achieve, because the judge was very clear in her judgment and said that there was no evidence and that they have the right to go and file fresh charges. But now the question is, will the lawyers of MARIBE accept that? Because I'm sure after they will bring in the fresh charges, the lawyers of MARIBE are going to oppose it. Because it's 6 years after the crime has happened. So the question will be, is it an abuse of the court process? Yeah? Was the delay reasonable for you now to bring in fresh charges against MARIBE over the same facts? Is it reasonable? Is it something that can stand? So those are the kind of questions that they're going to ask. But for them to appeal against the ruling on the basis of the offense of murder, MARIBE, there was no enough sufficient evidence against MARIBE for murder. And I know a lot of stories are going around, but I've read the judgment and I've clearly seen that there was just not enough evidence to charge MARIBE on murder. And I don't know why the prosecution, the DPP, missed that when they were charging all of them for murder. They ought to have put other alternative charges in place of MARIBE, but they failed to do that. So at this point, the appeal is just useless. Number two, they can decide to open fresh charges, which of course the MARIBE's team is going to oppose. It's going to be a very huge battle to either allow or refuse and close the case 6 years. So those are the options that are left for them right now. But I don't think the appeal is going to go anywhere, even if they're really trying to I don't see it going anywhere.